Hi, everyone. Welcome to our session today. My name is Moria, and I'm the Reactor Program Manager, and I'm based in Tel Aviv, Israel. I'm super excited to be here with you today and moderate this session on transition into tech. This is our first event to kick off this week's special event series that we launched as part of the International Women's Day celebration. Before we start, I wanted to let you know that this session is being recorded and it will be available for you later on our YouTube channel. I'm going to share with you the link shortly in the comments tab. This is also the place for you to post your questions during the session, and we will take the time to answer those questions at the end of the session or through the session. We will see what fits best, but please do share your feedback and questions, and we would like to make this session interactive. Lastly, I also wanted to let you know that we conduct surveys for our events, and we appreciate if you can dedicate a minute or two of your time to complete our survey for this event. And I'm going to share the link with you as well at the end of the session and in the comments tab as well. Okay, so I'm excited to introduce our panelists for today. They will be sharing their personal journey on how they decide to get into tech. So we have April Spade, Cloud Advocate at Microsoft, Louise Fries, Microsoft MVP, and Noga Tal, a Global Director of Partnership at Microsoft. Before we start the discussion, I'm going to let each one of them to introduce themselves briefly. So April, we will start with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Hello, everyone. My name is April Spate. I've been at Microsoft now for 2 years and in the tech industry for 7 years. I transitioned from the luxury fashion industry, and today I work in the area of spatial computing. I help folks who are brand new to the mixed reality space get started using our different products and tools that we have at Microsoft in hopes that they have great fulfilling careers and different cool projects that they can create.
Okay, hi there. I will continue. I'm Louise Fraser. I'm from Germany. I'm a Microsoft 365 consultant, MVP for Office Apps and Services, low-code developer, and member of the Microsoft 365 P&P team. And I help people getting started into extending M365.
And hi, everyone. My name is Noga Tal, and I lead the partnerships team at Microsoft for Startups. So everything to do with how Microsoft for Startups works with investors, accelerators, and different communities to support startups all over the world.
Perfect. Thank you all for introducing yourself. And as you can see, we brought you really diverse women from diverse background from all around the world. And we're really excited to start this discussion. So I think we'll start with the first question that I would like to ask you. It's about your journey to your current role. So if you can just share, what was your journey to your role? What did you want to do when you transitioned into tech? Just gonna switch it to another mode so we can see maybe all of us better. Yes, so as I mentioned, let's talk a bit about your personal journey and the reasons for you to transition to tech and to your current role. Louise, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So I studied economical laws and I do have a master's degree in business communications, and I was always very interested in corporate culture. And when Office 365 popped out, I was just like, hey, this is going to have a huge impact on how people want to collaborate with each other. And of course, this will impact ongoing change in organizations. So I was like, okay, perhaps I should know more about that. And this is when I started to get interested in that. And this led to me just like doing a lot of user adoption workshops and so on in organizations. And during the last years, I transitioned into a more technical role, becoming a more functional consultant, but not anymore a business consultant, and being a low-code developer because I focused on Power Platform because I wanted to simplify business processes, and I wanted to make sure that people could create the apps that they actually need in their businesses.
Noga, what about yourself?
So my transition was actually quite a while ago. It was going on 12 years ago, and it was almost by chance. So I was working in Israel at the time, where I still am today, and the tech industry just seemed fascinating to me. I had a lot of friends who were working there, but I was in the nonprofit sector. And I was always fascinated to see what it was like, this mysterious tech industry everyone kept talking about, with all the wonderful foods and the perks and all the great stuff. And a role opened up at Microsoft. There was a 7-month role. So it was high risk, but I thought it would be just a wonderful opportunity for me to see if I liked it and if I connected with the tech industry. So that was my first role. And since then, it's been just a continuous journey of trying new roles, getting new opportunities, and thankfully also joining the startup organization a few years ago. So that's a short version of how I ended up where I am today.
Thank you, Noga. April?
Yes, for me, it started a little bit more unconventionally. I was in the fashion industry for a while, and while I was also an undergrad, and as I was graduating, reality hit that working in fashion wasn't going to provide the income that I wanted. So I had to find a new industry to transition into, but I also wanted to use any skills that I currently have so that way I can transfer them. Fortunately, when I was an undergrad, I got a certificate in business project management. So I figured I'd do something around project management, only to learn that a lot of the jobs at the time needed IT experience. And unfortunately, at no point in my course did we do anything IT related. So I looked around a lot, finally found an internship that was purely dedicated to IT project management by coincidence. And from there, I made it very clear to my manager that I wanted that to become a full-time role, even though I was hired as an intern. So 4 months later, I was hired as a full-time employee, and it was really great. From there, I was doing project management for some years. And then when I came to Microsoft initially, I was doing program management. But at that time, I felt that I've done enough in the PM area and I wanted something new, but I wasn't sure what I wanted. So I was at the airport one day. Microsoft was having one of the events that we have, and I saw a demo with the HoloLens where someone was doing real-time speech translation. And I thought that was the coolest thing. I had heard about HoloLens, but I had never seen speech translation in real time. And so after that, I reached out to Twitter and asked, how do I get started with this certain technology? And a lot of folks chimed in on different resources. I got connected with the mixed reality team here at Microsoft. And then I would say from there, pretty much the rest is history. I've been doing that ever since. And every day I feel like I'm still learning. So that's my little transition story.
Thank you so much. Before we go to the next question, I just really want to remind you, maybe when we're getting to know our panelists a bit better, feel free to ask them questions. They're really here to share their journey, but also tips and all kinds of information that you can find beneficial. So please feel free to use the comments tab, and we will address your questions through the session. So we'll continue to the next question, and it is, what would you say that the hardest thing about transitioning to tech, and how did you get past through it? Noga?
I think there were a few things. One was letting go of my own preconceptions of what tech meant and what working for a tech company was all about. I think I came in with a very specific expectation and understanding, and finding, I think the first few months I was having a rough time because it wasn't anything like what I expected it to be. And I kept trying to force reality into my expectations. And then I would say the second thing, which happens unfortunately to many women, regardless of to the tech industry, is imposter syndrome, is coming in and feeling like I was less than because I didn't have the right experience. I think that was quite challenging the first couple of years, until I had enough years under my belt, until I had enough experience and I had built my own professional network. So I would say those two things were the toughest ones for me the first year.
Yeah. April, Louise, do you have anything to add as well?
Yeah, I would say for me, not having anything technical with regards to experience on paper given that a lot of different recruiting platforms, they'll weed out for certain terms to get an idea of what your experience is. And then for even individuals who manually review different review resumes, if there's nothing that clearly stands out as a role that has been technical or directly title for whatever it is that you're applying for, you can definitely get passed on. So starting out for me, it was really hoping to get my foot in the door somewhere to prove my experience, even though it wasn't on paper, and be able to demonstrate transferable skills. And I was fortunate with that first internship that I had in the industry, because they gave me a chance to actually explain myself. And once I had that opportunity, they saw the connection between what I was doing in fashion with what I wanted to do as a project manager. So I would say overall, if you don't already have the network, it can be difficult just getting your foot in the door. Now that years have gone by, I've definitely built up my network, but starting out cold applying to places and not knowing anyone was definitely difficult.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, I think transferable skills is a great point, in having your narrative down around what your transferable skills are is super critical. At the end of the day, it does always come down to also having a bit of good luck and finding that one person who's willing to bet on you and is willing to, you know, give you that opportunity. But knowing how to explain the transferable skills, I think, is critical.
Yeah, I think you need to be able to tell your own story in a way that the other can just like understand that, and which value you will be adding to their team or to their product or to their project. And if I look into what I did, it's just like, of course, I was impostoring a lot, and I was always just like excusing myself and say, hey, you know, I come from a non-technical background and so on, and just like setting some expectations. And I really learned it the hard way that what I have to offer is not a lack of something, but that I will add a unique perspective, because I have a totally different background than a lot of more technical people do have. So, and of course, we know the more diverse respecting backgrounds is, the better the product outcome will be, because we just like widen our view and broaden our horizons on that. And I'm still learning that, to not say, hey, I lack of certain skills, but to say, hey, I have certain skills, these could be beneficial for us or for you. And beating my own imposter syndrome, my own false beliefs, what tech is, and when I could call myself a techie, or if I was just like nerd enough to just like survive in that industry, but not only to survive, but to even just like add value and enjoy that and have a career and not only a job or some tasks to do. So it was really not just like a walk in the park, but we're learning every single day, and every professional, regardless of the industry that you will talk to, will say, I'm still learning each and every single day. And if we can just like embrace that we're not somehow finished already, or always on an ongoing journey. So if you reach that state of mind, you're cool.
And I love that idea of being proud of where you come from when you're not coming from a tech industry, because I know for myself, this was 12 years ago, and I was so shy about my background. I literally pretended like I was born the day I joined Microsoft. And now I actually, you know, I love
that.
Nothing happened before, nothing to see here. And today I actually integrated into my narrative, and I'm proud of it. I worked in the nonprofit sector. I worked in the consumer sector. You know, I was part of, founding a social entrepreneurship startup before that term was even coined. But the first few years, I was really shy about it. So I love, Louise, the approach that you're taking.
Thank you.
Especially now with COVID, I mean, with the last year being so difficult, so more people considering to transfer to tech or other industries as well. But I think this concern of, I'm not saying it make it harder, but yes, there are some other difficulties that were added during this year to the choice of moving to tech, and more people are thinking of moving to this industry, and the concern just kind of like raised during this year. So that's really interesting to hear your perspective. We have a comment from someone saying that she's having a formal education in accounting. So very inspired to join this webinar and hope that will be beneficial for you as well. We'll move to the next question. So I wanted to ask also, how do you feel if you actually ever felt judged for not having a traditional tech background?
I will say for me personally, I've had a super duper unicorn experience coming into this industry. Given that the majority of folks that I worked with have been men, they've all been very respectful of my background. And it's more so from the perspective of having a different point of view with regards to how I resolve problems. I know not everyone has that experience, but I think overall, it would, like, for those who may be tuning in to this particular panel, if you can be that person that helps support folks who are coming in from a different industry and, respect what they can bring to the table, it makes a big, big difference. And it really does help build that confidence that, like for me, that I'm capable of doing whatever my role is. I hope that that experience continues for me as I continue my career in this industry. But definitely fortunate to have worked alongside various men who have been very, very supportive and always there throughout the process to help me get ramped up on the skills that I have. So if you're one of those people, please, please help people who are new so that way they feel confident.
Yeah, so I totally agree with that. So, I'm surrounded by the amazing people of the MVP community, and everyone just like tries to help everyone. And when I got in, I was totally intimidated by everything. I was just like, wow, what is that for a big circus? And I was, yeah, I was out of that. And I had so many people providing guidance for me and helping me and introducing me to people, or just like, I don't know, just like being there when I was lost at a conference because I didn't even know where to go to the restroom, and just like being friends, or being the big sister that I probably needed. And my goal is every single day to just like be that big sister of someone else and just say, hey, I will just take you by hand. And if you need anything, if it's just like, I don't know where to blog, or I don't know how this works, perhaps I don't know as well, but I will for sure identify the right people to ask. So to quote Tracy Villiers, it's just like, I don't know everything, but I do know everyone who does. So, and this is the goal, to just like connect people to each other. And regarding the questions, if I ever felt judged to not having the traditional tech background, only by myself. So it was just like me excluding myself and not being inclusive. So in this community, we are doing awesome in terms of including everyone and welcoming everyone. But it were my own false beliefs, and it were my my perceptions of who I should be or if I could fit in. And it turns out the more diverse, again, the better the outcome. And I totally appreciate all those different backgrounds. And when I hear someone has a background in fashion, of course, hey, I'm a girl and I like to dress pretty, but of course, as well, I will recognize, hey, they will need to have some skills that will be transferable and that they will add value to a more technical project as well. And I'm always very keen on learning how this works. So what are you going to bring to the table, what I can't bring to the table, because we're just different. And that difference does not necessarily mean, hey, this is wrong and this is right. But if we only search for one type of people, we will end up with pretty boring products. So this is what I think on that. So pretty boring.
Amen. Boring products and boring jobs as well. I think I'm not sure I had as good an experience as the two of you had, and I'm wondering if it was because I made the transition, almost 12 years ago, and the industry was also in a different place back then, with far less focus on diverse voices and diversity in general. I will say, I don't know that I felt judged, but I have felt doors being not open for me. And it's always hard to tell if it's because there's also that gender lens, right? You're a woman, and we know that that's also part of it. So when I would want to throw my hat in the ring on specific opportunities, I was told that it wasn't appropriate because I didn't have the right background, which was sometimes code for you're a woman, and sometimes code for you don't have the right background. So I would say, yes, it happens, but it's really about persevering and finding that, if the door's closed, find that window, find that crack, build that window yourself if you have to. The other thing I think that's also helped me is when I saw opportunities that people were not taking me seriously for, I really tried to understand what it was about my narrative and or my actual experience that was bugging them and how I can adjust it. And then also ensuring that in the current roles that I was in, I would get the opportunities to build a portfolio that would help me get there. So yeah, I think it's a bit of everything. I'm quite optimistic as I'm seeing things have changed, but I still think it's sometimes it's out there.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that most of you didn't experience any judgment from others, so that's really good to hear. We did get some questions from in the comments, so happy to share some before we move to the next question. So I can actually even add those questions here. So Beatrice saying, thanks for the great opportunity. How would you recommend to start connections?
I can start that one. So one thing I've learned over time is that everyone has value that you meet along the way. I know for some folks, as they're meeting people out in the community, they may think about status with regards to where someone might be in their industry and feel like, oh, I got to know that person. But then this person over here who's more new, maybe I shouldn't connect with them. And that's the number one thing you should not do. You should connect with everyone as you have the opportunity to, as you're meeting folks through various conversations, whether it be through events, for example, or even when you are employed at a company, also making connections with different coworkers that you may have as well. Meetups too. It really, for me, starts with casual conversations. Whenever I do have the chance to network with folks, I don't start off with trying to figure out what that person can do for me. I like to have an actual genuine relationship with that person. And then over time, if it comes to a point where one of us needs something from one another, it feels more natural rather than being used. I think what's bad for me personally is when it's obvious that someone's using you for what you have. So starting off with having genuine relationships with folks and not discounting anyone. Everyone is important, and you never necessarily know how one individual can connect you with another individual or help you get to wherever your goals are.
I totally agree on that, and I would like to add. So, if we let just like serendipity take place, and if it's just like, so I have so many connections with people, and I try to help people, just like, so I pay it forward, and even if it's just like for me a tiny, not super important thing, I would just like help, and this will create value, and this is just like going back and forth in waves, and somehow this will get back to me as well. So, and I don't just like calculate, hey, if I do this for April, then this will happen as well. But I would just do something, and somehow karma is a good girl, and so she will make sure that everything goes right for me then as well. But I don't do that on purpose, but I would then just like try to help April with one specific thing that I could do because I have another background and other skills than she does. And if we just have a lot of connections, that likelihood is just like higher. But don't just like count people, or don't just like say, hey, I need to strategically connect to this and that role because they are that org chart here or there. But it's just like, it's serendipitous, so just let it go and help people, and try to be of value for someone, and don't expect that when I do this today, then I will get back a response and that's tomorrow. But just pay it forward. Just be that big sister. If you need one, then you need to be one big sister.
Thank you. We'll take one more question, and then we'll continue with others that we have. So we have a question. Sorry, that wasn't the right one. But how do you deal with job application rejection, which is an interesting question, where but your only feedback is really pretty generic?
I can take a stab at this one. So one is I always try to get, when this happened to me, I did try to get some additional layers of feedback, and it really depends on. I would also say it has to do with culture and what country you're in, because different countries have a different level of transparency, both legally and just from a cultural standpoint. But I would really try to follow up with the person who interviewed me, whether it's the final decision maker or the person who interviewed me, not the generic, the person from HR who's just sending the email, the generic email, and be very transparent and say, hey, I'm looking to learn. I'm really looking to learn, and I'd love to get your feedback on what I can do better. Sometimes at the end of the day, behind the scenes, and I see this as a hiring manager, you might get rejected, but there's nothing wrong that you did, right? It could just be that someone else won out. It could be that we had to close the job requisition because something changed. So it's too easy to get up in your own head and just think about what you did wrong, what you need to be doing differently, what courses you need to take. Sometimes it's true, but I would really ask for direct feedback if they're open to giving it. Most people are far more willing to help than you would expect, as long as they know that it is time bound. It is, a short email or a short 10 to 15-minute conversation. You will be surprised at how generous people are with their time and their willingness to help.
Okay, we can move to our next question. And then we can take more questions from your comments that you post. And then please keep asking questions if you have. We're happy to help you, and if any way that one of the panelists here can. So can you maybe just share some tips for the first years of your new career in tech?
I would say for me, get comfortable being uncomfortable. My first week in that internship I mentioned involved me meeting up with folks who were VP level to get an idea of how they utilized our, I think it was one of the portals that we had at that position, at that job. My very first project was to help roll out a new IT help desk, and also to help transition our intranet to a new platform. So I had to go and speak with different VPs with regards to how their departments are using the current intranet and what they need. And so as someone who literally the week prior was folding t-shirts in the store, and now I have to face with folks that have the corner offices that I've never had a chance, to do something on that level. It can be intimidating, but I can honestly say, looking back, actually doing those uncomfortable things have helped me out a lot. In my current role that I have, even as a project manager too, I interface with a lot of those individuals. So over time, it's really just become second nature for me. So I feel like if you try to always stay in your little comfort zone and only do what you feel comfortable with, it's really hard to grow. So as things come up that you feel a bit nervous about or you're reluctant to do it. And, it doesn't mean that it's going to turn out perfect, but then if that happens, take it as a learning experience and then improve the next time that it comes around.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's all about learning, because regardless where in tech you work, regardless which role you have, things keep changing all the time. So, and this makes learning each and every single day super mandatory. And you can't escape from that, nor should you want to escape from that. So it's not that we learn something and then we are just like finished and then we're just like executing something. This is what machines are for. I train a model and then I just like work the model on that. But this is not where we need just like superhuman skills, just like creativity or critical thinking or empathy. So this is where we really excel. And if we want to leverage that, we need to be comfortable with keeping on learning every single day. And you need to find a way how you learn best. And if I speak about me, I learn best by blogging about something. So if I don't know something, I will say, hey, I will write a blog about it without knowing something, because this means that I need to learn the stuff that I then need to explain. And this solidifies my knowledge. And of course, it proves my knowledge, because it's just like a learning diary, such a blog. And then others will recognize my skills, because I said, hey, I can explain it to a 5-year-old. And if I can explain something that is very, very complex to, let's say, a 10-year-old, yeah, so then it's just like I proved that skill, and then I really got into that. So learn something, do something, teach something. And for me, it's more like blogging, but I'm quite sure that other ones will say, I don't want to blog, I'm not very good at writing. Perhaps I will record a video and show how to do that, or perhaps I will do a live session on that, or perhaps I will host a podcast or whatsoever, but just like find a way how you can learn, how you can improve your skills. And I don't believe in the idea of just like stepping outside of your comfort zone. I believe in the idea of extending your comfort zone, because stepping outside means, yeah, I take a step out and then I return into my comfort zone again. This is not what I have in mind. I would just like extend my comfort zone so that the comfort zone just like grows, and within I can grow.
Yeah, I love those ideas. I think it's being curious and it's volunteering. Like I volunteered for just a ton of projects when I was in my first 2 years. You know, raising your hand, being willing to try new things out, to work with different people. And then also starting to get really comfortable in telling people what it is that you do and the type of projects that you're leading. So starting to own this new career, be able to tell a really great story about what it is you do and what value you can add to others, because that will start to also have a multiplier effect where your networks also grow, you get more opportunities, and so on.
Thank you. Okay, we have one more question. It's actually a fun question. So, what's the most exciting thing about your job now?
Oh, I think it's the opportunities. It's just like I can just like change roles very easily, so I can decide on my own, hey, I want to more focus on this or technology, or I want to focus more on that technology, and can easily make that step. And it does not require me to change everything, but I can just like build up my skills and create a new pitch what I do. So this is one great tip as well. Learn to pitch your story accordingly. But that is justly exciting for me. So it never gets boring, because if I'm bored and if I say, hey, I'm the smartest person in that room, I can't learn anything anymore, then it's time for me to change that room. So I need to be surrounded by people who can still tell me something that I don't know, because otherwise it's boring. So if I'm the expert in everything, I'm doing that wrong. So then I should change the room and say, hey, what can I learn here? And this is somehow very exciting to me, because it never gets boring.
I would say for me, the comment made earlier about paying it forward, within my role in developer relations, like 100% of what I do is paying it forward. I'm the one that helps folks get introduced to the technology and learn. I'm there to answer questions. I'm there to help connect different folks in the community to other folks who are doing maybe something similar as well, or someone who's also like-minded and on the same path as they're on. For me, I know for some folks, it can be a bit of a sad feeling when someone starts to become smarter than them. But for me, I love when people that I'm helping have even more advanced skills than I already have, because that lets me know that they're on a really good path to improving themselves. And I always like to think that what I do is, for a lot of parts, jumpstarting people's careers, which is even more important to me, because where I'm at right now, I'm very happy. I just like seeing other folks also get their dip their toes in the extended reality world and then just go off to do very, very amazing stuff. So that makes me excited. I like seeing other people finally have that aha moment and then progress in their careers. So taking part in that in any way makes me super excited about my job.
April, you're making me want to study, to learn how to do extended reality. Maybe that'll be my fourth career after this one. So I think a year ago, my answer to what's the most exciting about my job would have been travel, because I was traveling every month and seeing new countries and new places. But I think I get a lot of joy from building partnerships. I love the startup space, but I really love working with partners, and I really enjoy getting to know new people and then figuring out with each person in each organization what's going to be beneficial for everyone. So for Microsoft, for the partner, and most importantly for the startups that the partner works with. So it's almost like a puzzle that you have to kind of rearrange and figure out each time, and also while building relationships that are meaningful and empathetic, and relay the values that I bring to the table, that Microsoft brings to the table. So those are the things that I get a lot of joy from, even for my own living room.
Then to add to this question, is there anything that something that surprised you when you transitioned to tech, something that you didn't expect and you're surprised by, that you can share?
I will say for me, when transitioning, I went into it assuming that everyone that I worked with already 100% knew how to do their jobs. And it's completely not the case. Yes, folks do onboard and they have a good knowledge of what their role entails. But once you're in a role, the learning doesn't stop. And I believe that was mentioned earlier as well. But I went in under the impression that you have to meet every single bullet point on the job description. And being on both sides as the interviewer and the interviewee, that's not always the case. Now, of course, there are some instances where certain companies need to quickly backfill a role to continue to have a project stay its course. And sure, that happens. But from a lot of what I've seen, there's so much more opportunity to learn things while you're at work. And then I've even come across folks in the area of programming who've been doing that for years. And then suddenly they need to learn a new language for whatever reason internally that has that need. And so I remember just seeing coworkers say like, oh, I got to learn this language real quick as soon as I can. And then that's what they're doing. So just great to see that there's those opportunities to still learn. And that really took me by surprise when I transitioned.
I think I was surprised how helpful and supportive everyone is. So, and not perceiving me as someone, so, hey, this is the one that does not have this and this and that skill, but just like, hey, she's bringing that awesome, I don't know, perspective to the table, or she can do this or she can do that. And just like encouraging me to just like learn even more. And I was really surprised by that because I did not imagine this to happen, because I was thinking, hey, just like, let's give it a try if this should work for a job for me. But I was not sure that that I would stay in tech like for so long. And I really enjoy that.
Yeah, I'd say I was also surprised at how welcoming and open and friendly most people were. It was like you, Louise, I came in for 7 months. I was like, oh, I'm just going to try this out. And here we are, 12 years later. So something worked. I think I was also surprised by how much people are value driven. Coming from the nonprofit sector, I had a bit of a naive perception of the world, and maybe a little bit of a hoity, like, folks in the nonprofit sector, they're the ones, furthering humanity. The tech sector is all about making money. And I was just surprised at how many wonderful, wonderful souls are in the tech industry who really want to make a difference in the world and are doing it just in different ways than what I had known previously. So for me, the ability to connect values and ethics and all sorts of other topics that were driving my career when I was in nonprofits was really surprising in the best of ways.
I have one more question. So, how did you how did you discover what part in the tech industry you're going for? So was it like someone said that they are debating between marketing or PM, UX? How did you know to say this is where I want to go and I'm putting my cards there and that's my direction?
I did not know. So it was not that I just like had a clear vision and a 5 years plan and everything just like figured out. I do think that if you have a 5 years plan, most probably this ain't gonna work, because this world is moving very, very fast, and tech is moving even faster as it seems, and it just happened. So I was just like super open and keen on learning everything that I could see, and that I saw, hey, potentially this could add value to this particular project at my customer. So I'm going to learn how to do that so that I can just like deliver them this value. And then I learned a new tag, and then I learned even more. And this somehow happened that I transitioned over time, but I did not make a clear plan and just like figured out everything. I just did that, following my passion on helping people, because so this is what drives me. I want to help people. And I do this by using and building tech. And it somehow happened that I'm now a developer for Power Platform, which is awesome, by the way. But it just happened, but I did not have a clear plan. And I think if you are open and if you just follow what drives you, so for me, it's helping people. And if you just follow that, it can somehow happen, but you don't need to know in advance.
I can say I haven't had a 3, 5, or 10-year plan in like years. It's so hard given just the way I think, it's very hard to maintain something like that. For me, it's always been a matter of what I find cool, or honestly, what I find cool. When I started doing project management, it was because I just wanted to manage how things were executed. And it turns out there was a whole career around it. So I said, all right, I'll do that. And then as time went on, I thought that I liked data science. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to try out data science. I like numbers, and I guess I'll learn this Python thing, only to find out I didn't like data science. And so rather than just be upset, I pivot. And from there, I got really into chatbots. So I did a lot with that for a moment. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I saw a demo for speech translation with the HoloLens, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Let me give that a try. And now I'm probably in like one of the most like rewarding careers I've ever had. But it's that curiosity that's helped me a lot. And, given the point that there's so much changing, it would be very difficult for me to map out what my career looks like in my current space, because there's something new that's always happening. So I mean, for me, it might not be conventional for everyone else, but I go with the flow. And as my interests change, I pursue those interests, and just knowing that it won't always work out. Sometimes you try something and you realize, okay, this isn't for me. And that's okay. If you realize that, pivot and find something else. And if you're still waiting to figure out what that something else is, try a few different things until something really catches your interest.
Yeah, I think letting go of that illusion that one day we'll know who we are and what we want to do with our life has been a big one for me. Like at some point I started refusing to answer those questions in interviews of where I'm going to be in 5 years' time, because it just felt like, it's not something that I can't even imagine. And I couldn't have imagined my current role 5 years ago. It probably didn't even exist back then, right? And I had no idea what I wanted to be or do when I came into Microsoft, when I transitioned into tech, and I probably don't know too much right now about what I want to be when I grow up. So I think it's just like April said, it's really just trying things out, seeing what makes you happy, and then also across different experiences and different roles, noticing what are the things that, regardless of role, are really important to you, right? Because sometimes you'll notice that you're super unhappy or super happy, regardless of the content of the role, because and for every person, it's something completely different. For some people, it's how much money they make. For some people, it's the manager they have or the people they interact with. So for me, that was the most meaningful thing, was to notice what are the things that really make it or break it beyond the role itself, beyond the content and the topic that I'm touching on.
Interesting that you all share the same vision of not having a kind of like a fixed plan and saying that's where I want to be and that's where I'm going, but you're kind of like open-minded and really took it by followed your passion and but reached the right places for each one of you.
Can I add one additional thing?
Yeah,
I
sure.
feel that even though I don't have that 3, 5, 10-year plan, what I do have more or less is like a loose plan of how I want to grow in different levels that we have here at Microsoft. So for me, I'm happy where I am career-wise right now, but I also know there are opportunities for growth, leveling up to different titles. That is something that I've learned over time as well. It's really hard to put a timetable on too, just because there's so many other factors that you don't have control over. But speaking with your manager in advance and making it clear that you do want to promote up, you do want to level up, you do want to reach certain points in your career that you're in the area that you're currently in is helpful. But one thing I found is that if you're too hard on yourself with timelines saying, okay, I must be promoted in 6 months, it's a very dangerous slippery slope to be upset when it doesn't happen. And it might not be because of you. It could just be over the fact that there's no room for you to promote up. So being a bit more flexible with that is also helpful. But yeah, if you find something that you love, if you know you want to promote up, do speak with your manager about that. And then together you can find what skills you may need in order to do that.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Okay, I see that we don't have a further question, and we are actually at time to end this session. But I had a great time hearing your different perspective and sharing your journey. That was really inspiring, and we got so many comments in the tab saying a lot of people wish to connect and you inspire them, and they have the same they're thinking of transition to tech from different industries, and this talk was really beneficial and hopefully will inspire other to follow different, not the same ways of you, but to take some tips and kind of like best practices that you shared, and maybe they can implement, and hopefully we'll have more women in tech. I'm gonna share a quick link to the survey for this event before we end the session. So I also shared it in the chat, the comment tab. We have a survey link, and the event code for today is 13015. We appreciate if you can take a minute or two to fill in the survey and share your feedback with us. This is, as I mentioned, the first event of this week's special event series that we hosted for International Women's Day. There are other events. I'm going to share the link with you now in the comments, so you can visit our series page and have a look at the upcoming events that we have this week. Hopefully we will see you in other events. I want to thank you again for joining us, and thank our panelists for taking your time and joining us. I know it's early in the day for others, and it's a bit kind of late for the rest of you. So thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your journey and your personal tips for other women and other people joining us. So thank you, everyone, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Happy International Women's Day, everyone.